What's up, guys? Welcome back to the DFS Dose YouTube channel. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel, like this video. Joey, we got to get right into it. So picture the scenario. You're sitting there, you just got home from work, cracked open a beer, you're logging onto the internet. What am I about to do? Am I about to play Warzone? Nah. You got that itch. You got that DGen itch. So you log on, Drafters Underdog, your best ball site of preference. You join a draft and you find out moments later that you have the 101. Who are you taking with that pick in 2021?
My gut is telling me McCaffrey, right?
CMC.
Best running back in the NFL. Obviously, the best dual threat option in the NFL. An immense ceiling with CMC. Only played 3 games last year, but in those 3 games, he averaged, 30 points a game?
Yeah.
So if he comes back this year fully healthy, which he will, in year 2 of Joe Brady's scheme, I think he will be a workhorse once again, which makes him the rightful 101. But I think there is some concern, and we've talked about it off the podcast with Christian McCaffrey, and that is with the Panthers basically saying that they're willing to part ways with him or anybody on their team in their looks for a future franchise quarterback. So
right.
Let's say they
send him to Houston, and it's the only offensive players they have is Christian McCaffrey and David Johnson.
Yes. Then I'm not taking Christian McCaffrey with the 101. Like, absolutely no shot if they ship him off to Houston. But if he stays on Carolina and if they get a quarterback, let's say they do get Watson and they don't have to send McCaffrey, God, like, he's a clear-cut 101. But I think there are some other running backs that could be drafted with the 101. And I think for me, those are Saquon, Kamara, and Dalvin Cook.
So that's interesting, because if you look at the ADP on Drafters, for example, Henry's going ahead of Barkley. Barkley is actually clear-cut number 5 in terms of ADP. So would you say that Henry's not even in that tier?
Yeah, I don't think Henry is in that tier just because of his limitations in the passing game. I do know that he set a career high in receptions, I believe, this past season, but he still was around 20 receptions total, and 19. he finished as the RB5.
RB3, and he finished with the RB5 last year. So a couple of interesting things about Derrick Henry, and I agree with you. I don't think he's in this tier because his lack of receiving ability is just capped. It caps him. He's not going to have that Christian McCaffrey season where he averages 29.5 fantasy points per game over a full 16-game season and puts up almost 500 fantasy points in a year like McCaffrey did last year. Henry's ceiling, we've seen it. He led the NFL in rushing in consecutive years. He has consecutive rushing titles, and the highest he's going to finish is still RB3. So I think that is kind of where Henry fails, where these other guys don't. I mean, don't get me wrong. I think he's worthy of that pick. Like, I don't see him falling off a cliff. And I think it's interesting that he's seen more targets in every single consecutive year of his career. It's gone up 5 straight years, I think, in terms of how he's utilized. Now they have a new offensive coordinator. If for some reason Henry were to get, incorporated into the passing game more, maybe he enters that tier. But as we sit right now, I think that you're absolutely right. It's McCaffrey, it's Cook, it's Kamara, and it's Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. So for those reasons, I'm fine with drafting one of the 4 of those guys. I think each have a certain upside to them that makes them worthy of being the 101. Dalvin Cook, I think his situation is the one where it's staying the same for this year. You could poke holes in each of the other 3 guys' situations coming into 2021. So for me, I think I would put Dalvin Cook 2, just in my rankings for now. Obviously, it's still early. It's still March. And if I was feeling frisky, I would take Dalvin Cook with the 101. But it's probably CMC, Cook, Kamara, then Saquon for me right now, if I had to rank the 4. But CMC is a clear-cut 101, I think, going into best ball drafts in March. Obviously, a lot can change in the coming month or 2. So that's something that we're going to have to stay on top of. But it's McCaffrey for me, and I think that's where everybody else is at as well.
Yeah, and when you talk about, being able to poke holes in these guys, just to vocalize some of them about Barkley. I mean, with Barkley, he had one amazing year, 2018, his rookie year, and had a better, a less prolific, but still great year in 2019. We just haven't really seen him put it all together in a couple of seasons now, but we know the upside is there. He had 90 catches as a rookie, and over 1,000 yards rushing. I think he had 2,000 yards that rookie season, if I'm not mistaken. So we know the talent's there. It's just really a, question of the Giants offense, right? Is that offense going to be so bad that it completely eliminates elite talent, i.e. Darius Slayton last year, Saquon Barkley potentially this coming year, Alvin Kamara. This man is snowboarding, X Games style right now in the mountains of Montana. So, I mean, hopefully he doesn't break his leg or something crazy like that. So, but more seriously, we saw last year, Taysom Hill really tanked his value when he was the starting quarterback. Taysom Hill, the ultimate ball hog in the NFL. He's not gonna give Kamara those opportunities, right? He's coming in. If the ball's on the field, Taysom is taking it. Now, Kamara still finished as the RB1, and I think it's kind of interesting that we usually don't see guys finish as the RB1 and then not be the 101 the following year. It's almost always, especially in these early drafts, it's almost like people copy paste, the finishes last year. So to see Kamara going 4th on drafters, 5th on underdog, which is half point PPR, I think that is pretty interesting considering Kamara, did it in 15 games. But the deeper you look into Kamara's numbers, the more you see that it's really a couple of those blow up games. Like it's that, 6 touchdown game against Minnesota in week 16 that really buffs his entire season. He was relatively inconsistent. I think he only had 4 games all season with over 20 points in PPR.
Yeah, I could see why Kamara is going with the 3rd and 4th pick in some best ball drafts, because obviously Christian McCaffrey is a better running back, I think, than Alvin Kamara, and he's in a better situation. I think Dalvin Cook is in a better situation as well. And then with what you just mentioned with Kamara and his blow-up games and Taysom Hill, and then obviously they're going to lose Drew Brees this year. Well, maybe, who knows? He might play. That would be an absolute travesty for the Saints, but they're going to go into 2021 most likely with Jameis or Taysom Hill as their starting quarterback. So I think that also hurts Alvin Kamara's upside a little bit. It would be kind of mitigated more with Winston than Taysom Hill, I think, though. So that's what we would hope for, is Winston starting. But yeah, Alvin Kamara, I think he's obviously a great player. 4th pick is fine for him. But yeah, I don't think he's the 101. And I think there's a very good argument to taking Dalvin Cook and Derrick Henry and maybe even Saquon over him for best ball in 2021.
Do you have any concern with Dalvin Cook that, the schedule was a major factor for him? Because, he got the NFC North boost where he gets, 2 games against the Lions, 2 games against the Packers, 2 of the 3 worst run defenses in the entire NFL. And those stats tend not to be sticky year over year. So like, even if the Lions still suck, which I know that you believe they will, I mean, they might be the 20th run defense next year instead of the 31st or 32nd. So, I mean, it's no coincidence. I don't think that David Montgomery was also the RB4 last year. And we know that, he got the Texans game, but he also got those same 2 games against the Lions, 2 games against the Packers. Like all these guys in the NFC North were feasting on these terrible run defenses, Cook included.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely a factor. Obviously, schedule plays a big role in some of the performances of these guys that finish in the top 5, top 6. But with Dalvin Cook and even David Montgomery, like they're still in the NFC North. I don't think there's going to be much improvement on the Lions specifically. The Packers have had a terrible run defense for the last 3 or 4 years now, finishing in the bottom 5, bottom 6 in terms of run DVOA. So I'm not too worried about the scheduling concerns for the NFC North guys like Dalvin Cook, David Montgomery for this year. I know they do have a tougher schedule coming up in 2021, but with a great running back like Dalvin Cook, I'm not worrying about matchup. It's just not a thought in my mind.
That's fair. All right. I mean, the final point that I want to make here is if you are somebody like me and, who's drafting hundreds of best ball leagues per year, I think that sometimes the 101 is less about your projection of these players and more so about just the opportunity to get a player in that draft slot. If you think about it, you have an 8.3% chance of getting the 101. It's randomly generated, it's RNG. So, if you're able to have more than 8.3% exposure to Christian McCaffrey, say, you're kind of ahead if he has a big season, right? And it's not really up to you because it's completely random. So you're going to get luck of the draw. Sometimes you'll get 101 more frequently than that, and sometimes it'll be less frequently. So like I was just looking at my percentages before we started. I have 7% McCaffrey right now through about 20 leagues. Like I haven't gotten the 101. I think I've got it one time. I actually recall I got him with the 102 because someone took Dalvin, like you were saying, ahead of him. So I haven't even gotten the 101 yet, despite being in 20 drafts. So just taking the opportunity to get those guys that you're not going to be able to get, I think is important if you're building a large portfolio of best ball drafts. That doesn't apply to everybody. If you're only doing a couple drafts, take the guy that you believe in. But if you're trying to spread your player exposures out, I do think it's important to sometimes let ADP dictate opportunities you might not have.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you on that, especially if you're playing hundreds of best balls like you do. I don't really play that many. Like last year, I want to say I was probably in around like 30-ish. And I guess my strategy for last year was to take the players that I believed in, like you were saying. But I did let ADP dictate some of my picks in the later rounds, not in the early first round. But it is a good strategy, I think, if you are a heavy best ball player, if you are playing, thousands of dollars in best ball every year. Yes, I do agree with you.
All right. I think that pretty much covers it. Let's just recap real quick. Give me your top 4 guys, the 4 guys in order for you that you would be willing to consider at 101.
Christian McCaffrey, Dalvin Cook, Alvin Kamara, Saquon Barkley.
In that order for you?
Yes, I think yes.
All right, my order is slightly different. I'm going to go McCaffrey 1. I'm right there with you. We saw him have over 470 PPR points in 2019. That was 156 more points than the RB2 that year. It's just his ceiling is too high. I'm not going to anticipate them shipping him away before it happens. So until that happens, McCaffrey's 101. I'm taking Cook number 2, just like you said. Barkley for me, I think ahead of Kamara at this point, just because of the uncertainty and the possible downside with Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston. I don't think either of them are great quarterbacks for Kamara. And then Kamara 4, Henry solidified at 5 for me. So I think we're pretty much right in line there. It's just a little flip flop of Barkley and Kamara, but that's what we've got for the 101 in early 2021 drafts. I mean, I'm sure we're going to hit on this throughout the season. So this might change as, early as free agency in like 2 weeks, right? Like, some of these quarterback movements could definitely impact.
1 week away from free agency.
1 week away. Oh man, it's going to be good. Make sure you guys tune into our first stream. That's going to be on Monday after you hear this. What's the date on that? March 8th. We're going to be doing our first stream. We're going to be hopping in best ball draft live. Joey's doing his first best ball draft on Monday. It's going to be a great show. So make sure you guys check that out. Links to all of our socials are in the description to this video. And we'll talk to you guys ASAP. We'll be back.